I now recognize Ranking Member Meng for her opening remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know that you and I share many of the same priorities. However, I must strongly oppose this appropriations bill that would abandon small businesses and hardworking Americans, weaken law enforcement, and surrender our nation's competitive edge. My hope is that we can work together to address my very significant concerns with the bill. As it stands, the $2.1 billion in cuts proposed today would be a betrayal of our fundamental responsibility to keep Americans safe and our economy strong. This bill does not fix the many problems caused by the administration's failures and Elon Musk's Doge team this year. And in fact, it further exacerbates many of these problems. At a time when Americans are worried about gun violence, hate crimes, and the opioid epidemic, this bill delivers a devastating blow to the federal law enforcement agencies that protect them. For example, this bill slashes FBI funding by more than $500 million, forcing the elimination of thousands of FBI special agents and analysts, public servants who work with our local police to solve murders, stop drug trafficking, prevent terrorism, and combat cyber crimes targeting ordinary Americans. The FBI's ability to catch criminals would be damaged, and public safety would be compromised as a result of this bill. This bill also decimates funding for the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, which would lose more than 1,000 personnel who work with our state and local law enforcement to keep illegal guns off our streets, catch dangerous criminals, and prevent gun crimes. The bill further reduces funding for organized crime drug enforcement task forces, undermining our fight against the cartels and drug dealers that bring opioids into our communities, as well as for the Justice Department's National Security Division, which works to protect the U.S. against terrorism, espionage, and other threats to our national security. The bill also leaves women and children more vulnerable to violence by sharply decreasing funding for juvenile justice and Violence Against Women Act grants. It zeroes out community violence intervention and prevention grants, as well as hate crime prevention and prosecution grants. And the Justice Department's Community Relations Service, which for more than 60 years has worked honorably to help mediate and end community conflicts across our country, is eliminated. The Justice Department's Office of Inspector General, whose work to prevent waste, fraud, and abuse at the department should have strong bipartisan support, is also cut by 30% in this bill. This cut opens the door to even more fraud and corruption. I believe that all of this is the wrong approach for the CJS appropriations bill. We should be investing more, not less, in the safety and security of the American people. We should also be doing more to address the high cost of living, but this bill sharply cuts funding for the agencies and programs that create jobs, boost American small businesses, and advance our economy. Economic Development Administration grants are cut by 36%, abandoning rural and distressed communities that are desperately in need of economic help and well-paying jobs. The bill slashes funding for the Minority Business Development Agency, taking away opportunities from American entrepreneurs. It cuts funding for the International Trade Administration by more than 30%, weakening the federal government's ability to help American businesses expand exports and fight unfair trade practices. Moreover, the Legal Services Corporation, which provides basic civil legal assistance to the poorest American families, seniors, and veterans, is cut by nearly half. Under this funding level, nearly 3 million fewer people will receive help with legal problems, including over 8,000 in my district alone. This bill abandons our most vulnerable constituents who can't afford a lawyer when they're facing eviction, seeking safety from domestic violence, or are denied benefits they've earned. Perhaps most short-sighted of all, this bill disinvests in the scientific research that drives American innovation, technological leadership, and economic competitiveness. This bill cuts the National Science Foundation by more than $2 billion and ends STEM education programs altogether, abandoning the next generation of scientists and engineers who will shape whether America continues to be a leader or becomes just a follower in the global economy. As other countries are racing forward in space exploration and climate science, this bill would cause the U.S. to fall behind by cutting NASA's science account by over $1.3 billion. The bill also makes huge cuts to the National Institute of Standards and Technology, which has helped American industry overcome technical challenges, innovate manufacturing, and work on the cutting edge of technologies like quantum and AI. I disagree with this bill's approach. As I have said repeatedly, I think that we should be doubling down on the investments in science that grow our American economy and incentivize advancements that improve life for all Americans. I thank the chairman and also want to thank the staff on the majority and the minority and also on my individual office team. I appreciate the hard work that the chairman and everyone has put into this bill, but because of all these shortcomings and more, I must urge my colleagues to oppose this bill. I ask my colleagues to work together in a real bipartisan manner to produce a bill that invests in safety, economic opportunity, and scientific greatness. I don't believe these are partisan values, and they should be our shared goals as Americans. Thank you, and I yield back.